Hey Taurus, come sit with me for a bit because I need to share what just came through in your reading today. I shuffled the deck with your energy in mind, and honestly, what came out is something you absolutely need to hear. This whole situation about him and his friend making bets about your return, thinking you would come crawling back in 3 months. That narrative is about to get completely rewritten in ways they never saw coming. So let me pull the first card here and see what the universe wants to show us about where you actually stand right now in this whole situation. I just drew the Eight of Wands, and I have to tell you, this card is telling me that you are moving fast in a completely different direction than anyone expected. The Eight of Wands is all about rapid movement, swift action, and momentum that cannot be stopped. While he and his friend were sitting around making their little bets about when you would come back, you were already launching yourself forward into an entirely new chapter. This is the energy of messages coming in quickly, opportunities arriving at speed, and your whole life accelerating in ways that have nothing to do with looking backward. What I find really interesting about the Eight of Wands showing up first is that this card often represents communication and travel. But more than that, it represents the feeling when everything suddenly clicks into place and starts moving. You know that feeling when you have been stuck for so long and then suddenly 10 things happen at once and you realize you are actually making progress? That is exactly what this card is describing. While they were counting down days and making predictions about your weakness, you were actively building something new. The universe is showing me that you have been in this accelerated growth period, possibly connecting with new people, exploring new interests, maybe even planning travel or receiving exciting news about opportunities. The energy here is so forward-facing that going backward is not even in your peripheral vision anymore. I need you to really understand what the Eight of Wands is saying about speed and direction, because this is crucial. This card appears when things are moving too fast to second guess, when momentum has taken over and you are being carried forward by pure positive energy. Think about how arrows fly through the air, how once they are released, there is no calling them back, no hesitation, just direct movement toward a target. That is you right now. Whatever plans he and his friend made, whatever timeline they gave you, they were measuring you by their own limitations. They thought you would slow down, lose steam, start missing what you left behind. But the Eight of Wands says you have not even paused long enough to look over your shoulder. Your energy is completely invested in where you are going, not where you have been. Messages are flowing, ideas are coming through, connections are being made, and you are operating at a frequency that leaves no room for regression. This is not about proving anything to anyone either. This is just you naturally moving toward your own expansion and evolution. Let me pull the next card because I want to see what is really happening beneath the surface of this whole bet situation and what energy you are actually carrying right now. Okay, so I just drew the King of Pentacles, and wow, this is powerful. The King of Pentacles represents mastery, abundance, stability, and someone who has built something real and lasting. This card is showing me that while they were busy underestimating you and making jokes about your return, you have been quietly building an empire. I am not even exaggerating here. The King of Pentacles is the most materially successful card in the entire deck, representing someone who has figured out how to create sustainable wealth, security, and prosperity. This is telling me that you have been focused on your foundation, your finances, your career, your physical health, your actual tangible reality, and you have been making boss moves. What I love about the King of Pentacles appearing here is that this card does not waste energy on drama or proving points. This is the energy of someone who is so secure in what they have built that external opinions become irrelevant. Kings do not explain themselves to people who are still learning the basics. You have moved into a level of self-sufficiency and material confidence that makes the whole concept of going back completely illogical. Why would someone who is building a kingdom return to a village? The King of Pentacles has resources, has options, has stability, and most importantly, has self-respect. This card is showing me that your focus has been on creating real value in your life, whether that is through your work, through developing skills, through managing your money better, or through investing in yourself in tangible ways. There is something else the King of Pentacles is revealing here about perception versus reality. They saw your departure as weakness, as something temporary, as a phase you would get over. But the King of Pentacles says you were actually making a calculated decision based on knowing your worth. This is the card of someone who understands value and refuses to settle for less than what they deserve. You were not running away from something, you were walking toward your own prosperity and abundance. Every day since you left, you've been adding to your personal empire, strengthening your position, and becoming more grounded in your own power. The bet they made was based on a fundamental misunderstanding of who you are and what you are building. They thought you would miss the connection, but the King of Pentacles shows that you have been too busy creating actual wealth and stability in your life to reminisce about situations that were costing you more than they were giving you. Now let me see what the cards want to show us about what is actually going to happen with their expectations and this whole 3-month timeline they set up. I am pulling the next card now, and I got the 9 of Wands. Oh, this is interesting because the 9 of Wands is about resilience, boundaries, and standing your ground after you have been through battles. This card shows someone who has been tested, who has faced challenges, but who is still standing strong with clear boundaries in place. What this tells me is that you have been through something with this person, you learned your lessons, and now you are fortified. The 9 of Wands appears when someone has developed wisdom through experience and is now protected by that wisdom. The 9 of Wands is really speaking to your current state of awareness and preparedness. You are not naive anymore about what that connection was or what it cost you. You have done the work of healing, you have reinforced your boundaries, and you have positioned yourself in a place where you can see things coming from a distance. This is the energy of someone who has their defenses up, not out of fear, but out of wisdom. You know what you will accept and what you will not accept, and that clarity is your greatest protection right now. When they made their bet about you returning, they were banking on you forgetting the reasons you left in the first place. But the 9 of Wands says those reasons are actually clearer to you now than ever before. What I find really powerful about the 9 of Wands in this position is that it represents someone who has been underestimated, but who has used that underestimation as fuel to become stronger. Every time someone doubts you or dismisses your strength, the 9 of Wands takes note and adds another layer of determination. You are not operating from a place of trying to prove anything, but you are absolutely clear on what you will not go back to. This card often appears after someone has faced repeated challenges in a situation and has finally said, enough is enough. It represents that moment when you realize that protecting your peace is more important than maintaining connections that drain you. The bet he made with his friend was based on the assumption that you would weaken over time, that your resolve would crumble, that loneliness or nostalgia would bring you back. But the 9 of Wands is standing at the gate of your life right now, saying that nothing and no one gets past these boundaries unless it truly serves your highest good. Let me pull another card because I want to see what the universe is revealing about the actual outcome here and what is coming for you instead of what they predicted. I just drew the 4 of Swords, and this is so perfect for where you are right now. The 4 of Swords represents rest, recovery, mental clarity, and strategic withdrawal. This card is showing me that you have been in a period of intentional rest and restoration. While they interpreted your absence as weakness or inability to stay away, you were actually in a necessary period of recovery and mental regrouping. The 4 of Swords appears when someone needs to step back from chaos to gain perspective, and that is exactly what you have been doing. What makes the 4 of Swords so significant here is that it represents conscious choice rather than forced circumstance. You chose to rest, you chose to withdraw, you chose to give yourself space to think clearly. This was not about running away or being unable to handle things. This was about being smart enough to recognize that you needed distance to see the situation accurately. The 4 of Swords is deeply connected to mental health and emotional recovery, showing that you have been doing the internal work that creates lasting change. You have been processing, healing, gaining clarity, and most importantly, you have been resting in your own energy without the constant drain of a dysfunctional connection. The Four of Swords is also telling me something crucial about timing and strategy. This card often represents the calm before a major move, the stillness before action, the preparation phase before launching something new. So while they were counting down 3 months and making predictions, you were actually in a strategic pause that was preparing you for your next big moves. This is the energy of a chess player who steps back to see the whole board before making their move. You have not been idle during this time. You have been gathering strength, clarity, and vision. The Four of Swords says that what looked like absence to them was actually you doing the deep work that cannot be rushed. You were healing parts of yourself that needed attention. You were clearing your mind of confusion and manipulation, and you were creating space for truth to emerge. That bet they made about 3 months, they did not account for the fact that 3 months of clarity and peace can completely transform someone's perspective. They thought time would make you forget why you left. But the Four of Swords shows that time has actually made you remember exactly why you left and reinforced your decision. Let me pull the next card to see what is really happening with their expectations and this whole dynamic they set up. Okay, I just drew the Three of Swords, and this card is revealing something important about the reality of the situation. The Three of Swords traditionally represents heartbreak, painful truth, and necessary endings. What this card is telling me is that yes, there was real pain in this situation, there was genuine heartbreak, and there were difficult truths that had to be faced. But here is what makes this significant in your reading today. The Three of Swords is not showing up as your future. It is showing up as the acknowledged past that makes going back impossible. The Three of Swords is one of the most honest cards in the deck because it does not sugarcoat pain or pretend that difficult things did not happen. What I am seeing here is that you have fully acknowledged the hurt that occurred in this connection. You are not in denial about it. You are not minimizing it, and you are not pretending it was less painful than it actually was. This level of honesty with yourself is what makes their bet so fundamentally flawed. They thought you would forget the pain or convince yourself it was not that bad. But the Three of Swords says you have looked directly at that pain, you have named it, and you have used it as information about what you deserve and what you do not deserve. What is really interesting about the Three of Swords appearing in this reading is that it represents a breaking point that has already occurred. The swords have already pierced the heart. The truth has already been revealed. The illusions have already shattered. You cannot unknow what you now know. You cannot unfeel what you have already felt. When someone makes a bet that you will come back, they are betting against your memory, against your self-respect, against your ability to honor your own experience. But the Three of Swords says your memory is crystal clear about what went wrong and why it could not continue. This card often appears when someone needs to face a difficult truth, and you have already faced it. You looked at the reality of the situation without the filters of hope or potential, or what could be, if only things changed. You saw what was actually there, and you made a decision based on that reality. The Three of Swords is also speaking to me about the nature of their bet and what it reveals about their mindset. Making a bet about someone's return after heartbreak shows a fundamental lack of understanding about how real pain creates real change. They think you will forget, forgive, or minimize what happened. But this card says the pain was real enough to create permanent transformation. The Three of Swords appears when someone has been hurt deeply enough to finally set boundaries they should have set long ago. It is the card of painful but necessary truth that leads to liberation. So while they are sitting around with their 3-month timeline, you are living in the truth of what that connection actually was and refusing to return to a situation that broke your heart. Their bet was always going to fail because it was based on underestimating both your pain and your growth from that pain. Let me pull the final card here because I want to see what the universe is showing us about where all of this is actually leading and what is coming for you beyond their limited predictions. I just drew the Five of Pentacles, and at first glance, this might seem concerning, but I need you to hear what this card is really saying in the context of everything else we have pulled. The Five of Pentacles traditionally represents hardship, feeling left out in the cold, and struggling with lack or loss. But in your reading today, this card is showing up to reveal something profound about what they expected you to experience and what is actually happening. The Five of Pentacles in this context is showing me that they expected you to struggle without them. They expected you to feel like you were on the outside looking in, to feel the cold of being alone, to experience lack or regret. Their bet was fundamentally based on the assumption that leaving would be harder for you than staying, that you would find yourself struggling and would come back seeking warmth and security. This is what they were counting on when they set that 3-month timeline. They thought you would make it through maybe 2 months before the difficulty of being alone would send you back. But here is what the Five of Pentacles is actually revealing when we look at it alongside all the other cards in this reading. Yes, there may have been moments of difficulty, moments where you felt the weight of change, moments where being alone felt hard. The Five of Pentacles acknowledges that transformation is not always comfortable, and that leaving familiar situations can feel temporarily destabilizing. However, and this is crucial, the Five of Pentacles also represents the choice between temporary comfort and long-term well-being. It is the card of someone standing outside in the cold rather than going into a warm place that would cost them their dignity or self-respect. You chose the temporary discomfort of change over the permanent damage of staying in something that was hurting you. What makes the Five of Pentacles so powerful in this final position is that it reveals the fundamental difference between how they see struggle and how you see struggle. They thought any difficulty or loneliness would send you running back, but you understand that some struggles are worth it because they lead to freedom. The Five of Pentacles appears when someone is going through a difficult transition, but is doing so with integrity and self-respect intact. You might have had hard moments, you might have felt lonely sometimes, you might have questioned your decision briefly, but you never lost sight of why you left and what you were walking toward. Their bet was based on you choosing comfort over growth, choosing familiarity over self-respect, choosing temporary warmth over long-term freedom. But the Five of Pentacles shows that you are someone who is willing to weather the storms of change rather than stay in a situation that is fundamentally wrong for you. So when we look at this entire reading together, Taurus, what is being revealed is that their bet was doomed from the start because it was based on a complete misunderstanding of who you are and what you are capable of. They saw someone they thought would break, but the cards are showing someone who is building, fortifying, healing, and moving forward with absolute clarity. The Eight of Wands showed your rapid forward movement in a completely different direction. The King of Pentacles revealed that you have been building real stability and abundance in your life. The Nine of Wands showed your strengthened boundaries and hard-won wisdom. The Four of Swords revealed your strategic rest and mental clarity. The Three of Swords confirmed that you have fully acknowledged the pain and are honoring that truth. And the Five of Pentacles showed that you are willing to face temporary difficulty rather than compromise your self-respect. That 3-month timeline they set, it was never about you. It was about their need to believe that what they offered was irreplaceable, that your growth was temporary, that your boundaries were negotiable. But everything in this reading is screaming that you are not going back because you have already gone too far forward. You are not the same person who left. You have evolved, strengthened, clarified, and moved into a completely different energetic space. Their bet was based on you staying static while they remained unchanged. But you have been transforming every single day since you walked away. I just want you to sit with this for a moment because it is really important. Whoever is watching this and resonating with this energy, I need you to understand that other people's expectations of you are not prophecies. Just because someone believes you will fail or break or return does not mean you will. Just because someone cannot imagine you thriving without them does not limit your actual ability to thrive. The cards today are confirming what you already know deep in your soul. which is that leaving was the right decision and staying away continues to be the right decision. You are exactly where you need to be, doing exactly what you need to do, and becoming exactly who you are meant to become. Has anyone else experienced something like this, where people underestimated your strength or made predictions about you coming back to a situation you outgrew? Drop a comment if this reading resonated with you, because I have a feeling a lot of Taurus energy out there needed to hear this message today.